Hello everybody, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Chocobo Dash. I am your host, Nell Celestine. My co-host, Eliot Lefebvre, is currently unavailable for today. However, I have a wonderful guest host here joining me. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Klaus Nightbringer from Phoenix Down Radio. Nell, thank you so much for having me on. How are you tonight?
I'm doing rather well. Now, Phoenix Down Radio. That's a relatively new podcast. Very few people, I'm assuming, have heard of it. Why don't you give us a little pitch?
Okay, if you insist. Phoenix Down Radio, we're a brand new show. We just actually had our premiere episode last weekend. And we are a group that are based off of the Hyperion server. And we wanted to contribute to this wonderful Final Fantasy XIV community that we all really enjoy. We listen to a bunch of the different podcasts that are out there, such as yourself, Limit Break Radio, Whispering Dawn, and we thought, well, I think we could have some fun doing something like this, so we've been working on it and have launched, I would say, pretty successfully, but, we can always use more followers. You can always check us out on our Facebook page, Phoenix Down Radio, or you can get us on our weekly streams, or bi-weekly streams, at twitch.tv/Phoenix Down Radio. And you know when we go up.
Yeah, and I believe your Twitter account is at Phoenix Down Radio, isn't it?
Yes, it's at PHXDN Radio. I had to choose that because it was one letter too long.
Oh, that's a shame.
That is a shame. It's kind of a little bit of a pain, but it is what it is. We deal with it. Less to type.
True enough. True enough. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about what separates your podcast from the other ones that are currently out there?
Oh, throw me under the bus here. Make me think about things. Here, I thought this was just supposed to be a happy little voice here to help you out.
Well, I'm trying to get people to go and check out your show because
yes,
I did get a chance to listen. I enjoyed it. So,
well, thank you.
Why don't you sell it and see if we can get more people interested in? Because there's not like there's enough podcasts out there that people don't have enough time to listen to them all. So
no, that's very true, and there's a bunch of different things that people enjoy about this game. Right now, we are one of the things that we feature in our show is we actually do a little bit of a crafting and gathering corner. So it's one of those things that everybody seems to gloss over because, oh my god, crafting and gathering is so boring. But it's actually not that bad. I have all level 60 gatherers. We have a couple of people in our free company, and one of them is in with us in Phoenix Down Radio, Tristan. He is a pretty high-level crafter, and he's going to try and show everybody some of the higher-end crafting pieces, little tips and tricks, besides having your free company get everything for you so you don't have to do it yourself. But, no, and we try to cover the news about the game that's coming up like everybody else does, but we try and do it in our own little way. We're still new, we're still kind of finding our voice, and we really hope that people can come check us out sometime.
Now, you said that he's gonna show off like how to do some crafting and stuff like that. Can I get a Thavnarian Bolo? Maybe I can just send a character over there and then transfer them back over to Belmont?
I'm sure he can probably actually make one, but you may need to provide the mats, because they are kind of tricky to get at this point sometimes. Unless you
Curses,
like doing lots
foiled
of maps.
again. But yeah,
nice try, though.
The crafting section, though, that's... I've never really heard anybody actually dedicate significant time to that, other than, oh, look, new crafting recipes have been added. Oh, look, new gathering points have been added. Burp-a-derp-a-derp-a-doo. And it makes up at least a third of the game.
It really does. I mean, like I said, it's one of those things that you can make. It's a really lucrative part of the game if you want to make gil. It's a good support piece of the game for the end game raiders, for their potions, for their foods, for melded accessories and things like that. It's more than just getting it up to 50 so you can repair your gear in dungeon.
True enough, not to mention glamour.
Yeah, the true end game.
Hey, no, you take that back. It's the second true end game.
Oh, okay,
Triple Triad is the true end game.
Well, at
least to me.
That could be your end game, and we'll have our glamours. All right.
That's a fair deal. Shake on that.
Deal.
Okay. So yeah, Phoenix Down Radio. I would suggest if you guys haven't had a chance by this point, go listen to them, give them a shot. Provide some positive and negative feedback, but make sure you do it in a constructive manner, because remember, these are people, obviously, as you can tell. So any kind of feedback is good feedback as long as it's constructive. Don't just go and say, this microphone sucks, I want you to just stop doing this. Be like, hey, look, I noticed your microphone is a little bit scratchy or something. Have you tried fiddling with your settings a little bit before the next show, see if that makes a difference? Or, something like, hey, look, I noticed the quality on the video in this part seemed to have an error or looked a little bit off. Have you thought of trying to adjust your rendering settings or something?
And
Constructive.
those are all positive things that we're looking to work on as well. We're trying to figure out what's, all the technical things to, get everything to work as best as possible. And, of course, we're still kind of dealing with all those little bugs, so...
Hey, everybody deals with bugs on a regular basis. I mean, what's the motto of Limit Break Radio? It's not an episode of Limit Break Radio unless they start late.
That's true. But usually that's because somebody's working or just they overslept. Isn't that
There's also been several episodes where they've been delayed by technical issues.
Yeah, especially the last couple of weeks, I suppose. The PC did blow up or something like that.
Yeah, so technical issues are there for everybody forever. So it's part of the parcel of, living with technology.
Gotta love technology.
The cause of and solution to life's current problems.
Hear, hear.
But yes, so we have a live letter coming up next week, don't we?
We do. Going to be happening during the Tokyo Game Show, and Yoshi is going to be dropping more information regarding everybody's favorite patch coming up, 3.1. We've seen a lot of stuff get dropped already, but he's going to finalize hopefully a release date for us, as well as clarify a few new things that might be happening in that.
At the Tokyo Game Show, they usually wouldn't announce it like, the patch is coming out next week or something.
No, we're probably looking still in October. At least that's what most people are guesstimating. But
well, they've already mentioned that the official servers for Europe are going to be moved during the middle of October. It would not make sense to do the patch before then, because then those people are not able to play said patch when it first comes out.
And they said that we're looking at a 3 to 5 day downtime for those people affected by that. So
I also can imagine they would probably get some free time to play, like free time compensation as well for that.
Something along those lines. So you could probably guess that once they finalize the EU data center, that maybe a week after that they may look at dropping the patch.
Yeah, I would say a week sounds good, because that way it gives them a bit of runtime to make sure that everything's up and running properly.
Exactly.
Because you don't want to drop the servers and then immediately drop a patch on them.
Oh, that would be very bad.
Yeah. That would be like, hey, look. And then we just see smoke coming out of somewhere in Europe and be like, oh, look, somebody had coffee in the Square Enix server room again.
And they had actually a pretty good drop of Heaven's Word, so they don't want to really break that with, having a patch come right as they're opening up a brand new data center.
Yeah, so about a week, maybe 2. So if they do it in the middle of October, you're probably looking at the end of October for the patch, which gives me 2 months to get the last freaking cards.
You can do it.
Oh my god, I need those just to stop. Yoshi, I know you're adding more cards, but please, for the love of God, no more random. Oh. Actually, that brings me up to a point that you and I were discussing the other night.
Uh-oh.
The fact that the random is absolute bullcrap, and the fact that I'm apparently the biggest supporter of Gold Saucer across all podcasts.
Yeah, you seem to spend a lot of time there grinding out your tournament games, as well as getting all these gold and platinum packs so you can try and get the cards you need.
Yeah, I should get a free mount for all of this work, and it should just be a pile of MGP that I stand on and kind of like crescends like a wave, and you stand on it with this confident, crossed-armed, smug look on your face.
An MGP gold golem?
Oh my god, make it like the golems from Dragon Quest and you stand on its shoulder.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Oh my god, it'd be like, ah!
Yoshi, put that in! Yoshi, make that amount.
Please look forward to it.
That's throwing back here, that event when that came out, they mentioned there was going to be gold brickmen for that event. There was no gold brickmen in all those brickmen that we killed. It was all just regular brickmen.
He was
disappointed.
Just trolling us.
I was disappointed. I was like, where are my gold brickmen? I need to kill them for GP.
But hey, at least you got your King Slime hat.
I have the most amazing King Slime hat screenshot. I put my Chocobo in the stable. I put the slime hat on. I stood underneath my Chocobo and angled the camera so it looks like my King Slime is riding on the Chocobo.
Oh boy. Only Nell.
What can I say? I love the slimes.
Oh, I mean, I remember playing that. It was one of the first games that I played on Nintendo, good old Dragon Warrior, so...
Oh, that was one of my first RPGs. But that's not what we're here to discuss.
Sorry, we kind of went off track, didn't we?
That's quite alright.
Oh, it happens, doesn't it?
It always happens.
Especially when you're old and you're just like, well, back in my day...
We only had 2 buttons on our controllers.
And we liked it.
Actually, no, I didn't. Those controllers were square and hard and hurt my hand after a while. T-bone controllers were better.
That was just part of growing up, wasn't it? Getting Nintendo thumb?
No, like the palm of your hand, the controllers would dig into it.
Well, you were hanging on too hard.
Well, when you're playing Mario really, really late at night, yeah, you get frustrated and you kind of grip the controller really tightly.
Sounds like some personal problems.
That and Ninja Gaiden.
Don't get me started there.
Alright.
Anyway.
But going back to 3.1
yes.
and the stuff there, we haven't really gotten too much more information on Void Ark, but we can clearly see from the design it's got a very much, at least to me, it has kind of an Atmos feel to it, like or Atomos pronunciations, but it has that feeling, not so much of the primal itself that I'm thinking of, but if anybody's played 11, there was the Void Walk. That zone that was the space that was between dimensions that was within Atomos, and that's the spot where you traveled back and forth between Lilith, Sept, and your world by crossing through Atomos. I'm wondering if the Void Ark is the same thing, only an actual ship, and that would explain why that Kate Sith was there.
That's an interesting way to think about it. A lot of people that I've talked with, they're thinking it's, some sort of Allegan prison ship or something like that. It's just a darker kind of mode instead of like the neon look that we got in Labyrinth of the Ancients or the Crystal Tower ones. Yeah.
Well, to be fair, that kind of fits as well, because when you think about it, Crystal Tower was an imperial palace. Of course, it's going to have bright, vibrant colors, because that's where Emperor Xande was. That's where he lives, and he's big, he's large, and he's in charge. And so he wants to have the best, he wants to have the nicest, the most splendorous. Having that as a prison would make sense with all the darker colors, but that doesn't explain why Kate Sith would be there.
Yeah, I'm at a loss as to why he was in there. I don't know if it was just because it was a pretty looking graphic to put next to it, or if there is some actual story tie-in with it. I guess we may find out more about that.
Generally, those things aren't just thrown on there.
No, Yoshi's not known for just making things look pretty. He usually has some sort of story behind it, so we'll have to figure out what that is.
Alligans, from my understanding, didn't really like prisoners, so I'm assuming that throwing them in the Void Ark, if that is a prison ship, it's going to be for the prisoners who were too much for the Alligans to handle.
Yeah, so what's that say about what the people that are in that? And what are we going to encounter as adventurers?
Because remember, they put Bahamut inside of Dalamud.
And shot it into space.
What the hell did they put in the Void Ark if that's something that's meant to hold something in?
Barney the dinosaur?
Yeah. But there is one other dragon that I can think of, especially one that would fit fit with the motif of the whole Atomos idea.
Oh?
Shinryu. And that... Remember, there was... Wait a minute. Holy crap. There was 7 children for Midgard Summer, right?
Yes, I believe you're correct.
Okay, so we had the Rashkasha, who's dead. Nidhogg, Hresvelger, Bahamut, Tiamat, that we know of. So there's 2 left. Shinryu would make sense to be one of them.
That's definitely a possibility. I hadn't even thought of that.
And remember, Yoshi said that the Void Ark dungeon, like the 24-man dungeon that would be for the Heavens Word, was going to be original to 14. It would not be another throwback like Crystal Tower was.
So this could be an interesting tie-in to the storyline, like a side arc of that. So we would keep it original to the game, but have it be a side story that doesn't actually tie into the main line. And I'm wondering,
there is those 2 dragons that are still unaccounted for. Those 2 elder dragons.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. I can't think of the other one. Shinryu is the only one that pops into my head for another great dragon from the Final Fantasy series.
And yeah, unfortunately, that went a little bit over my head. That would be more of our lore guy Sayre's domain. He might know the answer to that.
Well, you can pitch this idea or show him this episode next time, and before you guys go on, and have him go,
That's definitely something. They're all going to listen to it, so I'm making them.
Yes, you're going to force them with your triple triad deck.
Yes.
But yes, so there's a lot of stuff, and I'm assuming that, I know that during the 14-hour stream that they didn't show that much, and people were complaining that, oh, there's not really that much content being shown, there's not really that much going to be added. I think we're going to see a lot more stuff that was not even announced at the Tokyo Game Show.
I'm hoping that we get some good information out of that. You know, Tokyo Game Show for Japan is one of the biggest game shows for them, so I'm guessing that they're saving a lot of their good information for that, and I'm hoping that that they share that and we get a lot of good news.
I'm calling this now. I called this on the last episode. I'm going to call it again. We are going to get Hildebrand. We're going to get a new Hildebrand storyline, and they're going to premiere the trailer for it at the Tokyo Game Show.
They better, because I mean they've been teasing Hildebrand. I mean he was in the anniversary. They teased him in the anniversary stream that he was going to be in the. God, now my words are blanking. In the benchmark, and if you played it during the 2-year anniversary date, he was in there. So, you know, basically teasing that he's going to be back in game. So, I'm hoping that we get something with Hildebrand there, and I'm hoping that they give us some other good, interesting storyline to go with the new dungeons we're getting.
Yes, and we're supposed to be getting most likely the extreme for the Singularity Reactor.
That's what people are guessing, the Knights of the Round battle again, but I don't know, people are talking Doom Train, people are talking a number of different possibilities. So,
well, something that was mentioned to me in the comments in the last episode was one of the NPCs mentions what terror would you get with combining a behemoth and a bomb. Now, I know for a fact that Madalos, aka Beoheen, was the one that wrote that one. Whether or not that was a hint or just the fact that he loves to reference Final Fantasy IV and things, I'm not sure. Because in Final Fantasy IV you could get behemoth and you could get bomb as summons. But if you combine behemoth and bomb, the best description for that would be Belias from Final Fantasy XII.
Which
and
I've heard
Belias is referenced already in 14 during the Summoner storyline.
So there's a possibility that we may go that route, or they could be going in a totally different route that nobody's even thinking of yet.
Hey, they've done it before. We won't know until the patch actually drops.
Exactly. Please look forward to it.
And honestly, Yoshi, if you are listening to this, which would be awesome, leave some key features out until the patch notes hit. Leave some of your big, heavy guns out until those patch notes hit. So that way, when those patch notes hit, oh my god, people will be like, what the hell was that?
That would be fun. Just being able to just jump in the story and then be just shocked again.
I mean, sure, it's going to be near impossible with data miners, but, you know, not everybody's a data miner.
Exactly. I tried to stay away from a lot of that because I wanted to be somewhat spoil-free when I went through the story the first time when 3.0 dropped. So,
yeah, that's pretty much how I rolled too. I mean, the only thing I ended up getting spoiled on was I saw somebody running around with the title Nidhogg Slayer, and I was like, well then.
Yeah, that's kind of hard to avoid.
Yeah, there's only so much you can do when you're trying to avoid spoilers and you're not trying to rush the whole thing on day one.
Yep, and I'm sure you saw people flying around on Midgard Stormer mounts and things like that too.
Oh, definitely, definitely. But it is what it is, and I look at it like this, that yes, they had a title, and yes, they had the mount. I just assumed, okay, I'm going to get those eventually. It's just I had no idea when or where.
And as long as you got to play the story in your way, that's the most important part.
Yeah, so don't let anybody pressure you to run the story their way. Do it how you want. Enjoy the story, because that's what it's there for. If you love story, enjoy the story. If you don't love story, go ahead and skip, but don't force other people to skip.
Exactly. I mean, granted, I got through the story in like a day or two, but you know, it was just because I had a group of friends that we all were in the same mindset. We wanted to get through it and enjoy it together, and we wanted to make sure that we weren't spoiled. But you know, we never, you know, we had a company rule where we weren't going to spoil things, and actually we still have that spoiler rule in effect, so people who are joining us are a little bit slower to get into the game are able to enjoy it at their pace.
Yeah, we have the spoiler rule in effect in our free company as well, and the rule is going to stay in effect until 3.1 drops, because that's when we consider that, okay, then 3.1 storyline has the spoiler warning until 3.2, etc., etc.
Yep. Though in our podcast, we basically are we're everything that's up to date is fair game at this point. You know, we're not using the media spoiler warnings anymore. So
no, that's fine. It's been a reasonable amount of time, but like as an example, when the Heaven's Word first launched and I had early access, I was streaming it, but I also made sure that the first word in my stream was spoilers, because some people didn't have the early access yet.
Yep, and you didn't want to have them get spoiled on the story if they didn't want to watch.
Yeah, my opinion is 3 weeks to a month after the release of an expansion is acceptable for a non-spoiler time period. Afterwards, it's okay in moderation, but check first. If it's after the next major patch, it's completely fair game.
Agreed.
Now that's just for interlink shell stuff like this. For podcasting, y'all have been warned a long time ago.
Exactly. I mean, it's been out there for long enough. I would say more than 50% of the population
as
has gotten
soon as
through.
Yoshi wore that I Miss Halshafont shirt, that's fair game.
Though that was kind of a questionable thing. You know, he could have kept that from happening. Come on.
He doesn't mean he still doesn't miss it.
No, I know. But still, he's the producer. He could have stopped the whole thing.
Could have, but it wouldn't have probably been as good of a storyline overall.
And it was a good storyline. As much as it hit you in the feels, it was a good storyline.
True. Very true. So, I'm going to pitch out a question, because we used to do this then we forgot to do it when we came back for the last week's episode. So this is the question of the week, and I'm going to throw this to you as well. Who is your favorite character from Heaven's Word, that's Heaven's Word on, and why? You can pick any character that was before Heaven's Word, but they have to be a focal point in Heaven's Word. So as an example, like say Alphino is a major point in Heaven's Word, so you can pick him, but you can't say pick Thancred or really Sid or something.
Because they're not back really in the game at this point. Well, Sid is. He's got a small part in it, but...
not really enough to be a focal point in the story.
Okay.
He was more of a focal point in 2.0, where about halfway through the storyline he joins with you and is a major chunk of the storyline. But he hasn't been that much of a focal point in the storyline since.
All right, so really put me on the spot here. If I had to pick somebody who my favorite character is, as far as in the Heavensward story, I would probably have to go. I really like where they went with Y'shtola, to be honest with you. How she kind of got out of the whole ordeal with 2.55, and how she was basically hiding in the Aether, and then how we were able to go through and find her, and then how she was able to come out of that. And then how we got to meet her badass master, Matoya, and all that good stuff. That was a pretty interesting story arc, I thought.
Oh my god, before we go any further, when I went in that cave,
Did
when
you
I
get
went
the
into Matoya's cave,
FF1
and
feels?
they played that Matoya's theme from Final Fantasy 1, I literally broke down crying, okay? I seriously broke down crying. It was that little extra touch by Soken that just added so much depth to that area and just brought all those memories back of all my love of Final Fantasy, and I gushed. I couldn't contain myself.
Yeah, there was a number of spots like that, whether it was storyline based or just little touches that that you really feel. But getting Matoya from 1, that was a really nice touch that they put in there, putting her in the cave like that and making her an important piece in the Hinterland Charlayan story arc.
And I kind of liked one little thing that they did about that. It was kind of like a flip-flop between Y'shtola and Matoya. Because what was one of the defining features of Matoya in the original Final Fantasy?
Her brooms?
No, you need to get her crystal orb back because remember she was blind and needed that to see. Now this time around, her apprentice Y'shtola is now blind.
Is she fully blind? I thought she just had.
She is fully blind.
Oh wow!
She can only see by sensing the ether, and by doing so, that's consuming her life.
I missed that little piece. I guess maybe I played a little too fast.
Yeah, there was something that it was when you were leaving after getting all that information and you were heading back to Sid, and she pulls Y'shtola aside for a second and says, I believe the line is, Y'shtola, when did the light leave your eyes? And that's when they discuss it. And it's a very short, brief part, but you get the real meat and potatoes of it after you exit that. But before you do anything else, if you talk to those NPCs outside, Y'shtola kind of mumbles to herself that she should have known that she couldn't hide that from her master.
Now I knew that her eyes were affected by that, but I guess I didn't realize that she went fully blind.
Yeah, 100%.
Today I learned.
For me, I would have to say my favorite character from Heavensward would have to be Ysayle, aka Iceheart, because we find out more about her and more than I am just the leader of these Dravanian hordes that are just trying to be heretics and overthrow Ishgard. We learned more about the fact that she's actually technically from Ishgard's areas, that she was trying to flee when Dalamud came down, that all these problems she realized after encountering Hellstrigger for the first time and realizing she had the Echo and seeing what actually happened from that account. It's just all of these little things. You get to know so much more about her. You get to learn about her depth, about the strength of her character and what she's had to endure. And chances are, if you think about it, if you, the warrior, had likely been put in the same position, chances are you would have done the exact same thing.
Yeah, she's actually a very deep character. I figured you liked her more because of her reaction when she first saw the Moogles.
That's another thing.
Oh my god, it's so fluffy!
And the fact that when you go to leave, she's like, if you talk to her off to the side, she's incredibly reluctant. She's like, I don't want to leave. They're so cute and fluffy. It's like, oh, I just want to give you my Moogle plush toy.
No, she can't have my Moogle. I'm sorry.
But yeah, and the fact that she made that ultimate sacrifice at the end with the airship to prevent the Garleans from shooting us down. Because yes, we know the whole unless you see the body, the character is not actually dead kind of deal. But we saw her crystal of light explode.
Yeah, that was one of those scenes. I remember when I was going through that part with Free Company members. They were like, we were all in voice chat together, and they were like, you could tell what part they were at because they were like, oh no, all that. They were just reliving, and you're like, oh, that's where you're at now. So it was a very heartfelt scene right there. And I thought that when they came with the tale from the Dragon Song War about her and Hrelfgar, sorry, bad pronunciation probably, but their little interaction from after you leave and before she meets up with you up in Asisla, I thought that was an interesting little point as well, and how they kind of discuss that and how she actually gets up the courage to go with him to basically meet her fate.
Yeah, and the other thing about that part that pissed me off so much is that it ruined my ship. I was totally shipping Ysael and Estinian. But to be fair, the fact that the two of them played off each other so well throughout the storyline was amazing.
No, they had good interaction between each other, even though
very good chemistry with the whole one side being completely their side and the other side being like, no, it's my side that's right, and then they learned that, oh look, we're both fucking wrong.
Yeah, and then they started to kind of see each other's points of view a little bit, even though Estinian was still kind of stubborn, so to speak.
True, but he acknowledged her at the very end.
Yes, and it would have been interesting to see what could have developed with that, but I suppose they had other plans.
Well, if Adia can live on in the afterlife, then doesn't mean that Ysael and Estinian can't.
Well, like I said, until you see the body, you never know what happens. So.
True enough. So, everybody in the chats, or not the chats, sorry, everybody in the comment box below, leave us a message. Tell us who your favorite character is and why from the Heavensward storyline. I mean, if you want, say Biggs, because Biggs had a larger part in the storyline than Sid did. But yeah, go for it. Let us know who and why, and, it's interesting to hear, because everybody loves different characters for different reasons.
Yep, it's your game. You can play it how you want. You can enjoy what you want. So there's no wrong answer.
True enough. And we'll read some of the comments next episode. But what was your favorite part about Heavensward compared to 2.0, would you say?
I thought that there was a lot more emotion in a lot of these cutscenes in 3.0 versus where you got a lot of the scenes in the 2.x series. I mean, granted, yes, there were a few that were evoked some strong emotion, but none that were quite so bam, 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 one after the other. Like we had Harshafant at the end of the vault. We had the Asisla scene when you're with Ysael, and you've got all these other just real emotional scenes, an emotional storyline. So I mean, they really dug deep to write this story, and it was a very good story for an expansion.
I can agree with that the storyline had a lot more impact, I feel. And one of the other things that I find that I think that most people don't realize is that the Hildebrand storyline, while entertaining and some people didn't like, actually, to me, I think served a dual purpose.
It was kind of like a comedic relief type of thing.
No, not that part. I'm thinking from a technical standpoint. Because remember, the Hildebrand storyline had a lot, and I mean a lot, of facial emotions. A lot of very awkward-looking faces throughout the entire course of those stories.
That's very true. So
they could have been experimenting with that, learned from it, and then applied that knowledge to the 2.0 cutscenes.
I see where you're going with that now, and that definitely makes sense. It was a way for them to not only give us some funny stories, but a way for them to see what they can do with this gaming engine and give us some really good emotive characters.
Indeed, like they were able to present. Like I noticed that a lot of the characters were a lot more emotive, not just in their stature or their poses, but with their facial expressions, and that was something we didn't really have in 2.0.
Even the Warrior of Light, you've gotten a lot more emotion out of your character versus in those cutscenes versus just standing there going, type of thing.
And I do love the fact that the number one complaint about 2.55 was the fact that you weren't given a choice like anywhere, even if the choice was meaningless, right?
Yeah, you were basically...
You were given choices throughout the entire course of this game that didn't make diddly squat of a difference except for change the next sentence's reaction to you.
It was still kind of a write-your-own story in that aspect, but yeah, the whole story went on the same way, but you were able to get your own customized little
you were able to
interactions.
throw in your own little bit of personality into your character.
It was fun.
Yeah, it didn't change the overall storyline, but you were able to inject a little bit more of yourself into that character, and that's a great thing to me.
And I hope they continue that in future patches and future storylines. Maybe
Agreed.
even give us some more options as to some of the different outcomes potentially. Maybe not huge, like story changing, but maybe you'll get different NPCs saying different things if you choose one option versus another, kind of thing.
Like having all the members of the different free companies cheering you on when you give the new Legias the finger. Actually, that's something I didn't mention in the last episode. Do you remember when they said that they still had to be taken into consideration legacy stuff?
I guess I don't recall that.
Okay. You played 1.0 though, correct?
For a very short time. I'm kind of sad to say that it was only for a little bit.
Did you get legacy status at all?
No, I have the legacy tattoo on my character, but I don't have legacy status.
Okay, then you will recognize this line. Remember when you go into Hashifon's family house and the head of the household turns to the two sons and says that you defeated Gaius Van Belsar and you're not here to steal their glory or to do their errands.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that line?
I think I recall what you're saying there, yes. Where it changed for those who have
For
legacy
those
status.
of us who had beat Neil Van Darnus in 1.0, he turns around and says, you're looking at the person who has defeated 2 Imperial Legates.
Yep, I do happen to recall that little piece. I know I also saw that those who had gone through the Dragoon quest, there's a line when they're going into the Eyrie where Estinian says, that there are 2 Azure dragons, or 2 Azure dragoons, excuse me.
Yeah, and he also mentions apparently some dialogue regarding not wanting to get possessed like last time. Because in the Dragoon storyline, apparently he gets possessed by Nidhogg during that as well.
So you do get a little bit, depending on where you've progressed on different side story quests, but...
Yeah, so there's a lot in here that if you just go through and don't think about it, that makes a huge difference.
And it's just those nice little touches that really show that they're paying attention to those story pieces, that it's not just another hack and slash grind 'em out MMO. It's a very story-driven, community-driven type of thing.
Yeah, and that's something that's extra special, I feel, because I've played a couple of other MMOs. Most of them have not had a major story behind them. Like, I've played Phantasy Star Online, I've played Ragnarok Online, I've even played a few other Korean MMOs, I've played Star Wars. Now, don't get me wrong, Star Wars has an amazing story, but once you finish this main story, it's just garbage. But 14 has an amazing story that's interactive, and the community is top-notch, and you cannot really find a combination like that very easily, especially in a pay-to-play game.
Well, I mean, it's just that's Final Fantasy for you. Final Fantasy is very, very story-driven, and the fact that even though it's an MMO, they want their mainline titles to definitely be, very strong in storyline.
And this one here, because 11, you'll notice, gets a lot of flack. Most people, quote unquote, won't play 11 because there's no story because it's an MMO, even though 11 has more story depth than everything before it.
Oh, and it actually had a very good storyline. I enjoyed that immensely, going through the story missions for the different expansions. But like I said, I mean, I suppose a lot of people, when you're looking at MMOs, people think at the time EverQuest was the big MMO, WoW was just coming out, and people weren't used to having to drive an MMO with storyline. They're used to going on doing small quests to go kill this X amount of times.
Grind.
Mm-hmm. And get your
but
little
that's one of the amazing things about 14, and that's why I feel it's so insanely popular across different platforms, not like physical platforms like PS3, PS4, PC, but I mean like actual platforms of different groups of people and stuff like that, is because you can be an elite raider, you can be the most casual person who only logs in a couple of hours a day. It doesn't matter at the end of the day, because the storyline, all of you can play it, all of you can enjoy it, and that is an amazing feeling.
Yep, and it's just a very good story as well. So
yeah, so it's just something that's beautiful, well done, and Yoshida should be insanely proud for himself and his team.
Exactly.
All right, so I think we just about wrapped up here for today. Did you have anything else you wanted to discuss on the show at all?
No, I just really wanted to thank you for letting a new guy on the block come in and voice his opinion on somebody else's show. So thank you very much. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to plug my show, our show, Phoenix Down Radio. Like I said, we run every other week, Saturday nights. Our next show is going to be actually during Tokyo Game Show, so it'll be that Saturday night at, I believe, 9:30 Eastern Time is when we run.
Is it Saturday or is it Friday?
Saturday night.
Okay.
So it'll give us a little bit of time to try and find those translations, because they're not going to have any English translations coming right out of the live letter. We're going to have to wait for some of that.
Ooh, Yoshi, fix that.
Well,
you were doing so well.
Like I said, this is for the Japanese audience mostly. So, but like I said, I'm sure that they'll have some of the promotions, or the language team maybe putting something out the next morning, because it's going to be like Friday night that the live letter goes out for us.
True, so we'll have to see how that goes, and hopefully it'll be translated, if not somewhat live, but shortly after live.
Yeah, there's a number of people in the community who have the capability to do some limited translation for us, so
just remember, take those translations with a grain of salt, because they're not officially translated, so
yep, until
we get the official word from Square, don't take everything with a grain of salt.
Exactly. But at least it'll give us an idea what they're saying. And if you are good at translating Japanese to English or whatever another language, maybe help out the community. Post some information out there, and I know there's going to be lots of people who would really appreciate it.
True enough. We lost Reinhardt when he went to work for Square, which is awesome for him. But the community lost a great lead on the translations there. So if you want to be the next Reinhardt, the next master of Subligar and translations, Subligar apparently is not required. But if you want to step up to the plate, now's the time.
And apparently Square looks at that.
Yeah, because apparently we don't have anybody else who's just as famous as Reinhardt was for his translations. So if you want to be the next one, step up your game, bring it on. Bring it on! Just do it!
Do it!
Alright then. Why don't you give the location for your show one more time before we close out?
We can be found live at twitch.tv/Phoenix Down Radio. We can be found on Facebook at facebook.com/Phoenix Down Radio. And again, our Twitter is at PHXDN Radio. Again, thank you so much for this opportunity, Nell. And we'll have to have you on our show sometime when we kind of get ourselves out there and return the favor.
Hey, sure. I look forward to that. As always, everyone, you can leave any positive or negative comments in the box below. Please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Nels Celestine. My co-host, at Eliot_Lefebvre, is not here today, but he will be back next week. You can check out his information as well on the massively overpowered website, which includes the Wisdom of Nim, his personal information that basically goes over Final Fantasy XIV information. I currently do not have a Patreon, but if you think that it would be a good idea for Chocobo Dash to have a Patreon account, please go ahead and leave a comment in the box below. I want to hear some feedback on this before we start it up. As always, this is Nels Celestine and my co-host for the day,
Klaus Nightbringer.
bidding you adieu.